I never thought about posting here, but I have a story to share with you guys. Just promise me that you're not going to laugh. There's not a lot I know about this situation, and I can't process anything. So if I have bad English or anything else, I apologize. I'm shaking right now, so I can hardly write. But here's a story to describe it to you, and it's not very good. So, you know those shows we like to watch on television? Like SpongeBob SquarePants, The Amazing World of Gumball, and others? I'm bringing these shows up because they're examples of shows that you and I used to watch. Have you ever found anything weird or creepy about these shows? Admit it, you certainly did. And I did too. But it wasn't as bad as others think. It was just for the comedy. Aside from these shows, let's get to the story I'm about to tell you all. Again, I'm sorry if I don't describe my thoughts and feelings about this. This show just fills me with dread anyway. Anyway, here goes nothing. In late November, I inherited a home and was in the process of clearing out what was left of the estate of my great aunt, who had passed away, when I stumbled upon a very odd DVD of an obscure show. The box was badly damaged, but the disc was in seemingly perfect condition. The mystery had piqued my interest, so I loaded it up on my DVD player to check it out. There were no problems with starting the DVD, except for a black screen that lasted for 30 seconds. After about 30 seconds, the text "Sammy the Cat" slowly rolled across the screen, followed by the year 2019 in a smaller font. This was dumbfounding because my great aunt passed away in 2020, and we were only recently granted access to her estate. I'm told many of these DVDs were watched by a child who would babysit when she still lived at home. She was at a nursing home from 2017 until her passing. I was interrupted, and the show continues. After the title card, the screen quickly fades into white. The white fades into a shot of a lightly furnished, mostly empty room, with a door to the left. Rather quickly, however, a large cat enters the frame. The cat is prominently white, but it has black patches and spots. The screen was very blurry, so it's extremely hard to make out, but it appears to be a person in a cat costume. As it turns around, I notice the large cheeks, googly eyes, and stitches on the front portion of his body. The odd proportions of the costume led me to believe it was homemade. After turning around, the cat proceeds to stare into the direction of the camera for what felt like minutes until, again, the screen goes white, which lasts for a good minute. After a few minutes of a white screen, the costumed man is seen eating from a bowl of what appears to be raw meat. The source is unknown. I will leave it up to you to determine what the meat is. After emptying the bowl, the man leaves the frame, only to return about 30 seconds later, holding the hand of a masked woman. The woman was silent and frozen, and I'd almost assume she was unconscious, if not for her footsteps alongside him. The man leads her to the bedside and sits her down. He sits down next to her until he eventually starts to shake, and the shakes start to get worse and more aggressive. And the man is now slightly turned away from the woman and is, once again, sitting completely still. This must have lasted for multiple minutes until he reached back and grabbed the woman by the neck. The woman lets out a blood-curdling scream that is so loud that the camera audio struggles to pick it up, and the man covers his ears and starts yelling. The man stands up, also pulling her up involuntarily. The woman is dragged by her neck and then dropped. By this point, my heart is racing, and I'm confused and in shock at what I'm afraid I've found. This felt too real and unhinged to be some indie film, but filled with dread, I continue to watch it unfold. Little do I know, however, that I will soon wish I'd turned it off. After dropping the woman, the man frantically runs through a door to the left side of the main room, perhaps a small closet, because his right leg is still sticking out. When inside, he shuffles around for about 10 to 20 seconds until he suddenly turns around to reveal a long-barreled shotgun pointed directly toward the woman. The woman, still blindfolded, is sitting on the floor, unsettlingly silent. There's an overwhelming sense of hopelessness that flows through my body as I watch her exist, completely oblivious to what's pointed at her. She isn't allowed to see it coming. After standing for a moment, the man lowers the gun, casually walks over to the camera, and turns it off. The screen goes dark, and that is the last of the contents of the DVD. The woman was presumably killed in this scene because I heard a gunshot during it, and what followed was the blood-curdling scream of the woman. The show then ended. After the show ended, and after a few days of boredom and some hesitation, I decided to report the disc to the local police department. They took it as evidence, but I'd be lying if I said I'd heard anything back. I became concerned about what had happened to the woman, and I would prefer the closure of knowing rather than the uneasy ignorance that I've been living in for the past few weeks. I've been terrified of something I hoped wasn't true, but was afraid it might be. It was eating me alive. So yesterday I decided to reach back into the box where I found the original disc, because I knew I hadn't looked very thoroughly the first time. After anxiously sifting for about 30 seconds, a convulsive shock is delivered through my entire body when I see it. To my dismay, I spotted yet another unlabeled damaged disc container sitting along the border of the box, but I couldn't bring myself to touch it, much less open it. And ever since then, I've been feeling uneasy. I've thought about disposing of it so I don't have to deal with it, but I don't want to get rid of something that may potentially be the solution to a case. However, there was more than I thought. Without hesitation, I grabbed the DVD and inserted the damaged disc. I was hoping for more evidence. These were the events that occurred after the first disc. The disc was broken, but started with the cat again. He was talking to a 5-year-old boy. He asked the boy to follow him to the blender that was in the previous disc. He picked up the boy and turned him into a smoothie. The cat came back to his closet and put the long-barreled shotgun into it, letting out a huge sigh, as though he regretted what he'd done, and the entire thing was cut. The DVD ends. I started questioning this show, and the fact that this man didn't even put it in the nearby shop for DVDs, except for my great-aunt's house that I inherited. And I can understand why. It seems very unrealistic for some anonymous person to put their snuff film in a public store for others to watch. I turned off the DVD, took it out of my player, and reported it to the police department. I shared some evidence with them, and I have many questions after sharing the evidence. This is up to you to answer. Who is the man in the cat costume? Is the man related to my great-aunt? Why was he killing people? I will allow you to figure it out. As for the second DVD, I ended up reporting it to the police as well, upon again visiting the police department. I found out he was already serving time in prison on unrelated charges. They are now investigating the content of the second DVD of the show. I feared for my life. I had never seen anything unexplainable and weird until now, and to this day, a feeling of dread is always coming over me, and I feel like I did something wrong. When I tell people about this moment, they always give me strange looks, and they keep assuming I had a bad nightmare, when I didn't. At least from the later events, it was a nightmare. I'm sorry. This should have been prevented. But due to my curiosity, I wanted to watch the show because I wanted to know what it was. I'm now feeling guilty for what just happened, even though I didn't do anything wrong. I was getting tired, so I went to bed. But the show stayed on my mind while I tried to sleep, and eventually I drifted off. As I was trying to go to sleep to forget about what happened today, I started dreaming, and this dream seemed normal at first. I will share my dream, if you can call it that. To me, I call it a nightmare. I'm sitting in my chair. My living room is decently furnished, and my TV is running in complete static. When the static ended after 12 minutes, the old Warner Bros. Logo flashed on the screen, revealing the text, Sammy the Cat. I knew how this was going to go, but I don't recall seeing Warner Bros. At the beginning. Was this made by Warner Bros.? Perhaps a lost show? I don't know. I continued watching. The episode started with the camera pressed against Sammy's face, with that giant fake smile. And what I could make out was that there were finger holes where the eyes are. The thing I never heard from Sammy was his voice. Hello there. I would like to talk. His voice was cheerful, deep and loud, and it sounded like he was old. He spoke out to me. I tried moving, but I'm having those dreams where I can't move at all. He said some sentences that made my heart break. Your great aunt deserved to die. When that sentence came out of his mouth, it broke my heart, and I held back the urge to cry. I loved her, and she loved me. When she left me, I was broke. That's why I tried to make my own show, to get my money back. The voice was getting closer to the screen, and it almost sounded like he was whispering in my ear. I began to get chills. I could hold back tears as best I could. Sammy saw me holding back tears. Then the camera zoomed in on what appeared to be a shotgun in his hand. I eventually stopped tearing up, looking blankly at the shotgun, my eyes now shaking. Sammy pulled the trigger, the bullet hitting the camera, possibly the cameraman too, as I heard a blood-curdling scream and saw drops of blood, with the camera glitching. The television turned off, and I heard an aggressive knock at the door beside me. I had nowhere to go. I accepted my fate. Sammy barged into the room, holding a sledgehammer. The cat ran towards me and hit me with the sledgehammer. I went to sleep, and am now unconscious. I finally woke up from the nightmare, and I'm finally happy that I'm alive and well, with no bruises or anything. I got the idea to call Warner Bros. Entertainment because I saw the logo on my TV during the nightmare, so it's appropriate to do so. I dialed the company and asked them if they ever had a show called Sammy the Cat, or anything related to it. I was met by an unexpected response. They said yes, much to my shock. The guy who played Sammy was friends with the people behind Warner Bros., commonly known to some people as the Warners. The show was in the works, but the workers noticed that the man was upset about something, so they ended production with Sammy the Cat entirely. Sammy's actor was suffering from schizophrenia, anxiety, and depression. If I'm being honest, I kind of feel bad for him, despite the fact that he was a serial killer. The company also told me that some of the crew members rumored that he was responsible for the four Warners' deaths. Now keep in mind that if you call the company and ask them about Sammy the Cat, they will try to hide the truth by saying, "No, we don't have a show called that." I have the truth now. We've been on the call long, so we hung up. And for the company's sake, don't call the company and ask them about the show. For goodness sake. And if you're wondering how I'm doing right now, I'm feeling down as a person. I have depression, and I have anxiety about things now. I do not have schizophrenia, however. Anyway, thank you for reading about my experience, whoever is reading this. I wanted to get my story out there somewhere. I just want you to be careful and think before you watch the thing. If you want to watch these things, do it at your own risk. And that was Sammy the Cat, written by JosephTheSnail. Review time. Honestly, this story wasn't that great, in my opinion. There were some concepts I felt like could work within the writing, but, like, there are some important parts that feel just kind of forced and just there for no reason. But I will get to the positives first. For the positives, the grammar is not that bad. It's well done. The sentence structuring is good too. Everything's spaced out correctly within paragraphs. The protagonist makes some good decisions, like a plentiful amount of good decisions. Like the DVD having the snuff-like content in there, he actually goes out of his way to contact the authorities. Like, that is a smart decision because it contains snuff content. And maybe it could link to some sort of murder case. Sammy the Cat's motivation, despite being kind of a boring character, honestly, like, for what he did, like, can work in context of the horror and the drama of the story. Like, him sort of losing his mind after realizing that he has no one to mooch off of, and that sort of being the last straw, like, it kind of makes sense. I feel like it can work. But now I'm going to get into the problems I have with the story. For starters, we get to the contents of the DVDs, and its linkage to this guy's dream. Notice how in the dream, Sammy literally talks to the protagonist. We don't know if he's dead or not, but, like, he just appears in his dream and tells him that his aunt deserved to die and all of that. This is why I said, like, Sammy feels like a boring character despite the motivation, because he feels like he's trying too hard to scare the protagonist. Just try-harding, you know. And he explains his motivation, but then we get to the contents of the DVDs, which have nothing to do with it. He ends up throwing a child in a blender and turning them into a smoothie, like a giant blender. What? Like, honestly, that feels like a South Park skit or a Family Guy cutaway. Like, it doesn't feel very, like, impactful or powerful within the story. It's just there. If you want to have the murders sort of connect with his character, maybe have something to maybe have them connect with the his affiliation with Warner Brothers and how he was down there. Speaking of Warner Brothers, he said he was going to make his own show to, well, get his money back. I'm putting that in quotes because, again, he had no one left to mooch off of. Obviously, something like this would be declined by Warner Bros. It's kind of obvious, and that makes the story a bit more tropey, a bit cliched, as one may say it. I don't know. I didn't like it. I felt like it didn't fit very well. Also, the protagonist wakes up from his dream. Keep in mind, this is a dream. You, if you want to make it clear that the dream was true, that a message was actually being conveyed, maybe have the protagonist wake up and find something in his house that sort of proves the truthfulness of what he saw. But no, just have him contact Warner Bros. Right away. And one last thing I want to mention is the description of how it was rumored in the Warner Brothers corporation that he is the reason why all four of them died. All four of the Warner Brothers died. Which, how would that happen if their deaths were literally documented on Wikipedia and various other informational websites? I'm not upset at you because you certainly weren't trying to use real people for shock value or in bad faith, but this didn't make sense. But with that being said, I'm going to be giving this a 4 out of 10. It wasn't that great, but I can tell you certainly tried, and there were some concepts I felt like could work within the narrative. Joseph, keep writing, keep improving. Anyways, this is simply my personal opinion. We all have our opinions regarding these pastas. What did you think of the pasta? What would you have done to improve upon it? And as always, I will see you all in the next narration. I love you all. Bless.